I want to talk about what's going on at Michigan. I prefaced it a little bit in the open to this live show. There's a way things seem, and there's a way that things are. So, here's what we know. Here's the latest right now when it comes to the whole situation around sign stealing gate in Ann Arbor. Michigan staffer Connor Stalions, who's already been suspended, there's a report by Pete Thamel that he bought 30-plus tickets to Big Ten football games over the past 3 seasons. Now, I don't think Stalions is going to all those games, but different people, the assumption is different people within the Michigan program are going to these games, and they are reported, apparently, as recording the sidelines at these football games to take the signs and then obviously utilize that for Michigan during their preparation. So that's kind of the way that things look right now, and that is the report. There's no way around this now. This is just a very bad look. There's no excuse. Like, even if you're a Michigan fan at this point in time, it is hard to make an excuse given this report and given this information that we have at the time right now that there wasn't something going on, right? Like, you don't buy 30-plus tickets to Big Ten football games over the past 3 seasons if there's not like kind of a system in place there and if there's not an effort to maybe gain a competitive advantage there. So that's probably what happened, right? Like, I don't think we're going out on a limb saying, yeah, that's probably the reality of the situation right now in Ann Arbor. Also, a very bad look for Jim Harbaugh, because as the head coach, you are responsible both just philosophically and when it comes to the ruling within the NCAA of what goes on within your football program from a staff to a player standpoint. Like, I think it's actually specifically written out in relation to your staff, but we've seen coaches be held responsible for their players as well. In this situation, bad look for Harbaugh because of the length of time it went on. This wasn't, by nature of this report, like a new thing that's happening right now. So what do we make of this? I talked about it a little bit when this news broke, but I think 2 things can be true. The first is this is against the rules. There should be a punishment, right? There should be consequences for breaking the rules. I think we're all pretty much on board with that train of thought. Now, what that punishment is, I would probably lean more towards the slap on the wrist approach as opposed to bowl bans and, wins being vacated and things like that. Like, that would feel a little bit more extreme than what we need to do for this situation. Because I think the other thing that's true is while this is against the rules, Michigan has still been dominant. And from what I've seen from Michigan over the past couple of seasons, it had nothing to do with signs. Like, it had everything to do with that Joe Moore award-winning offensive line the past couple of years. Because here's the reality. It might look a certain way with having these signs being stolen and all that, but like, when we're running power downhill at you, whether you're on offense and you're running the power or you're on defense trying to stop it, it doesn't matter what the sign was. It's a matter of, are you man enough to stand in the hole, take on that block, or deliver that block, and have that be the way that things go on that play? Are you able to withstand physically what happens between the white lines? Because I'll say this too. I would be wildly surprised if anybody on the Michigan roster had any idea something like this was going on. Like, obviously, there's a sense of preparation from the coaching staff, getting guys in position to be more successful on play to play. I get that. But to make the leap to say Michigan had signs, therefore they've been good these last couple of years, we're reaching, y'all. We're reaching if that's the train of thought we're trying to go with here. And I understand folks that live in Columbus, Ohio, and folks that live in State College, Pennsylvania, and anyone else in Big Ten country, you feel some kind of way about this. I don't blame you. But I think when you turn on those games the last couple of years, there's no question who's winning those games. Do the coaches have an impact? For sure. But the players on the field is who's winning those games the last couple of years for Michigan. That's why I don't have an issue with this the way that I think some people might. There's a way things seem, and there's a way things are. The way it seems that Michigan cheated, that's not untrue. But the way things are is Michigan is just the better football team in the majority of these games they play. Should there be punishment? Absolutely. I don't want to come across like I'm excusing this. But I also can't help but feel just a little bit like, man, is this really that big a deal? Do we really have to make this a headline? And I get it's Michigan. I get it's Jim Harbaugh. That will make a headline in itself. So we got to talk about it. We're talking about it right now. But are we really going to just hang Michigan out to dry here because they took a couple of signs and tried to gain a competitive advantage that way? Other thing I would say, too, there's a reason this isn't illegal at the NFL level. All right? Like, I understand, like, this isn't with the college rules, but there's a reason that you can do this in the NFL. And my gut is it isn't that much of a competitive advantage, the way that I feel about this. So how does this impact Jim Harbaugh? I have no idea. No idea. There's a thought out there that maybe this is the NCAA's push to kind of get him out of the collegiate ranks, get him to the NFL. Maybe so. Maybe so. Like I don't know what's going to happen there. I would say that the NCAA is extremely slow on these things. I personally would be a bit surprised if anything were to happen this season to Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. But in terms of direct impact in the immediate future, I think they've kicked the hornet's nest at Michigan. And I've gone on record and said this a couple of times. Like, Michigan already thrives in that underdog kind of role, that chip on their shoulder kind of approach. If they didn't have a chip on their shoulder big enough before now, I promise you, they have a boulder now on both shoulders if you're Michigan at this point in time. Because the Harbaugh suspension and everything with the Burger Gate made you feel some kind of way with that investigation. That was kind of the way the players felt by nature of wearing the free Harbaugh shirts. But now there's accusations that are pretty serious, and there's some pretty serious evidence against it. But Michigan probably feels a little bit like people have it out for them. Whether that's true or not, that's probably the feeling in Ann Arbor. And there's no more questions about what they're going to do on the field. So I don't think you take those questions from previous seasons and say, well, everyone's doubting us on the field. That's not the chip on the shoulder mentality for Michigan anymore. Now for Michigan, it's, okay, people don't want to see us succeed. That's their feeling internally. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's their feeling internally. And so I think they have all the fuel they need to really go on a tear here. They've been dominant to this point in the year. I think this is only adding fuel to the fire. What it means for the future, no idea. Again, I hope that it's not a thing where we're just vacating wins and doing the bowl ban thing. Like, that would just feel like a very useless and stupid exercise, in my opinion. But for this season, again, this is all the juice they need to go forward. So that's the latest right now when it comes to this whole Connor Stalions sign-stealing stuff with Michigan. We'll keep an eye on it. As things formulate, we'll give you more and more of our thoughts on this situation. But again, I would lean more towards a slap on the wrist than anything more extreme when it comes to consequences. And let's not pretend that Michigan has been good because of this whole sign-stealing operation. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.